Good afternoon, I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. A special welcome to those of you watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can watch TVJ live by downloading our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the word Spot Media. The hotel and tourism industries are bracing for massive losses caused by the shutdown of the island's airspace. President of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, Omar Robinson, has estimated that millions have already been lost. Jamaica's airspace was closed for more than 24 hours between Friday and Saturday after a lightning strike damaged the radar and communication system at the Kingston Air Traffic Control Center. There was another shutdown of the airspace between Sunday night and yesterday morning. Mr. Robinson says the losses result from visitors not being able to keep their scheduled appointments.
The costs are astronomical. People who were supposed to go, who hotels might have had to accommodate them. Some may have had to do it complimentary. Some at a lesser rate, and then the loss of business. For those incoming people, you have the tour operators who would have had to incur additional costs to accommodate people in another country, in other hotels. Plus the fuel cost, the airline cost to divert the plane. It is a lot when it all adds up.
The National Water Commission, NWC, says several of its systems have been shut down due to turbidity following rains over the past weekend. Corporate Communications Manager at the NWC, Charles Buchanan, says a lightning strike also affected one of its plants.
Would have included about 5 systems in St. James. You would also have had some 4 systems in rural St. Andrew, 3 systems in St. Thomas, and a number of individual systems scattered in a number of other parishes, including 2 in Clarendon. These systems would have been affected where the muddy inflows coming into the facility have resulted in forced the closure of the facility to assure of proper water quality to meet appropriate potability standards.
To a TVJ News update now. The police have identified 2 headless bodies which were found in Comfort, Clarendon on Friday. Police say based on their descriptions and attire, the bodies have been identified as that of 19-year-old student Ronaldo Byfield of Whitehall Avenue in St. Andrew and a man known only as Jordan. Ronaldo had been reported missing at the Constant Spring police station on Thursday. Residents found the headless bodies meters apart in a cane field in Comfort close to Osborne's store shortly before midday on Friday. While processing the scene, investigators found the heads of the deceased in and around a nearby pond. Meanwhile, the police still do not know how or why the father of reggae artist Thriller U was killed. Thriller U, whose given name is Eustace Hamilton, is a member of reggae group Lust. He had reported his 72-year-old father, Thaddeus Jemison, missing after he failed to return home by 7 in the evening on Saturday, September 2. He says his father delivered construction materials and was reportedly last seen leaving a hardware store in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Mr. Jemison's body was found in a shallow grave on Simon Main Road in Tredegar Park about 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Police removed the body about 5 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Residents have rescued a man who was trapped for 3 days under a drain on Dome Street, Montego Bay, St. James. The man who was rescued said he went to the area with a female friend. The 2 had a confrontation. He said men from the area got involved, after which he ran and hid inside the drain.
You have to run because them did there long and wait to kill me. From the 2 of them did under there, with me under there, so that's why I couldn't come out from that time.
He was rescued sometime after 3 o'clock on Monday when residents heard a strange sound coming from the drain and went to investigate. It's being reported that more than 3,000 licensed firearm holders have not yet responded to the Firearm Licensing Authority FLA's amnesty, which commenced in June. The FLA says, with assistance from the police, it is going house to house to find the guns and the holders. At the same time, it says the individuals can still go in and present their firearms to have them inspected and obtain certification without fear of prosecution. More than 1,200 licensed guns have been inspected under the amnesty. According to the FLA, many of the guns which were issued by the police before the agency was created were ballistic tested for the first time. Meanwhile, the agency will be digitizing the records and contacting the firearm holders immediately after the date for renewal passes. In addition, it will be implementing fingerprint and face recognition machines at all its locations to prevent persons with criminal records and dual identities from obtaining guns. A number of taxi operators who ply the Bamboo to St. Anne's Bay route in St. Anne withdrew their services yesterday morning. The sudden withdrawal left commuters, including school children, stranded for hours. The operators complained about the pain of transporting their passengers on bad roads leading to St. Anne's Bay. They say they are forced to spend exorbitant amounts to repair their motor vehicles because of the state of the roads.
The road them is so bad. It's like every week we have been paying 20,000 to mechanic to work on the vehicle. I'm working on the road for 15 years and I don't have a dollar in my bank book because of the road. The road is so bad. Even my spine have been hurting me in the night. It have been tickling me like a nigger. You understand? So the bad road is not good. When I time me look out, my car costs $50,000.
They're calling on their councillor and member of parliament to immediately fix the roads.
We are still citizens of Jamaica. We are no less than anybody else. So we are asking and we are begging them to come out and assist us. We have a whole heap of working people around here, so all of us paying taxes around here. So we are begging and asking them to come and help us. Help us that we can travel back and forth freely.
Despite getting off to a slow start last Monday, Transport Minister Mike Henry is insisting the rural bus service is a step in the right direction to improve safety on public transportation in the underserved areas of Clarendon. 6 buses were rolled out in the parish last week under a pilot program with the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, which will eventually see the expansion to Manchester and St. Elizabeth. The buses are currently being dispatched from the Spanish Town Depot in St. Catherine in what the Transport Minister maintains is not added competition for other public transport operators.
And it's really a service to facilitate both the passengers normally traveling and the school children overall, but not dedicated as a school bus service. I want to emphasize that because the volume of children going to school cannot be carried by the public service alone. And I want to appeal to the persons who are serving the area before to recognize that it's a joined-up approach to ensure that people travel safely and that they can also benefit as they bring more people into the feeder routes that service all of the communities that we're trying to service.
The Denby Agricultural Showground is temporarily being used as a termination point for 4 of the buses in what Jamaica Agricultural Society President Norman Grant says will also benefit the annual Denby Show.
We have also engaged JUTC to use Denby as a layover location for their rural bus service.
In regional news, the curfew imposed in the British Virgin Islands following the passage of Hurricane Irma has been extended. In his first message to islanders since the storm last Tuesday, Governor of the British Virgin Islands, August Jaspert, said the full force of the law will be used against persons who have been using the volatile situation to engage in crime. Most of the archipelago has been left without electricity and water. There's also limited food and reports of the looting of business places. Mr. Jaspert said the National Emergency Operations Center is coordinating relief and response efforts for the territory. And in international news, French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in the Caribbean today, promising to rebuild the French territories ravaged by Hurricane Irma. President Macron said 11 people were killed in the French territories of St. Bart's and St. Martin, bringing the death toll of Irma in the Leeward Islands and Cuba to 38. We go to the CNN for more.
A path of destruction as it pummeled the Caribbean. From Antigua to Cuba, the Category 5 storm destroyed homes, cut power, and left dozens of people dead. The damage is expected to reach billions of dollars. Barbuda was devastated by the storm. Its Prime Minister says around 95% of buildings were damaged.
It was heart-wrenching, absolutely devastating. I have never seen any such destruction on a per capita basis.
In Cuba, people took stock of the devastation to their homes and livelihoods.
It's been a huge catastrophe. My home and my business, everything is ruined. I'm a self-employed carpenter. I tried to lift up things, but the water came too fast and too high. Everything is wet.
France has sent the army to its territories of St. Martin and St. Barts, with rescuers distributing food and water. On the British Virgin Islands, fierce winds blew away roofs and trashed homes. Billionaire Richard Branson weathered the hurricane, sheltering in the wine cellar of his private island Necker, where many buildings were destroyed. British Prime Minister Theresa May announced a $42 million relief fund, and there are just under 500 British troops in the region currently helping with the aid effort. The Dutch King, Willem-Alexander, arrived at the Dutch territory of Curaçao yesterday to evaluate hurricane aftermath.
I have just landed, so I really don't have enough information. But the only message that I have right now is we realize what has happened to you, and we are doing our best to help everybody who needs assistance. So have faith in the relief efforts, have faith.
For people in these Caribbean islands, the worst of the storm may be over, but the long road to recovery has only just begun.
And we go now to sports. The Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, has set November 15 as the date for the appeal of Jamaican sprinter Nesta Carter against his positive drug test from the 2008 Beijing Olympics Games. On January 25, it was announced that Carter was retroactively disqualified from the Beijing Games after retests of his 2008 doping samples came back positive for the banned stimulant methylhexanamine. Carter, however, claimed that he had never ingested or taken a substance known as or containing methylhexanamine, and later suggested that a retest of a 2008 sample in 2016 was unduly late, according to the IOC. The IOC can order to retest samples for up to 10 years after an Olympics, up from 8 years in 2015. Carter's positive test meant Jamaica's 2008 Olympics 4x100-meter team, which also consisted of Usain Bolt, Asafa Powell, Michael Frater and Dwight Thomas, was stripped of its gold medal since Carter ran on the team. Thomas ran in the preliminary round. And on to football. 2012 Manning Cup champion St. George's College kicked off their Issa Flow Manning Cup campaign, defeating Tarrant High 7-0 at Winchester Park on Monday.
Following a difficult and disappointing 2016 Manning Cup season, St. George's College got out to a flying start for 2017. They were goalless heading to the halftime, but were saved by a strike from Omaria Harding in the 43rd minute. Harding returned after the break to secure his second goal in the 47th minute, putting George's 2-0 up. Tarrant crumbled in the second half, triggering a St. George's College goal spree. The other scores were Nathaniel Campbell, Raheem Williams, Jaheim Brown, Kimari Robinson and Akeem Robotham.
You have to give Tarrant credit. I think they forced us a little while to settle in. But we get it right after the first goal. But I mean, that is, the first game we get a couple out early. But, second half come back out a little bit more positive. And hence the result.
Meanwhile, 2012 finalists Hydel fought all the way for a 3-2 win over Waterford High. Hydel led 2-1 up to the 78th minute when Waterford pulled level through Marlon Marsh. The goal was heading for a draw when Hydel went back in front for good. Fakibi Parkinson scoring the winner in the 87th minute.
Keep the ball a little more and play to the flanks. As you notice, when we play to the flanks and we get the squares in, then they were in a lot of trouble. They couldn't deal with the squares, and so we got a number of goals. Well, we got two goals from the squares, so basically that was it.
And Clancarty started on a winning note with a 2-1 win over Edith Dalton High. Yasu Walters and Matthew Tate got the goals for Clancarty, while Jaheel Blake netted Edith Dalton's consolation. Elsewhere, Holy Trinity prevailed 3-2 against the St. Jago in their encounter over at the Spanish Town Prisons Oval. Holy Trinity went in front through Shea Smith in the 10th minute. They were further ahead through an own goal on minute 22. Dylan McInnes got the third goal for Holy Trinity. St. Jago's comeback started with Shaquille Williams in the 77th minute, but ended with Kirk Samuda as they came up short. Bernardo Brown for TVJ Sports.
And that wraps up the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of our news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.